Now it's time for a brand new project. This one is called the intersection sculpture. We're basically creating a sculpture of a street corner. First, we're going to do a drawing. Now we're going to decide what we want to be the center, a roundabout, or do we want a four-way intersection, something like that. Now we need to have at least 3 intersecting roads or paths. So here I'm just drawing a bunch of things. Now I'm not going to have like a roundabout in there because I haven't really left myself room, but I've got a bunch of different roads. Something kind of looks like that. Cool. Should work out pretty nice. Let's add a little something in the middle that they can drive around. A sculpture maybe. Now I'm just putting these in to remind myself that those are going to be roads. Now this might end up changing once I get to the sculpture portion, but we'll wait and see. I'm going to add some lines here to make it look like that's a path, and then some crosswalks, just so I can kind of mentally get ready for the stuff I'm going to have to make on my sculpture. And this is also a good place to try out ideas and see if you like how they look. Now this will probably be a good spot for a pond, so I'll just do that. Maybe some grass or reeds around the edge of it. And draw in maybe another body of water or a park or something, and then this is where some buildings are going to go. Reminder, this is just kind of a rough draft, an idea of what we want to do once we get to the sculpture. Now that we're finished with our drawing, we can move on to the cardboard base. Now we're basically going to redraw this as closely as possible because we already know what it's going to look like. Now you might need to change the size of some of the objects on your drawing because the cardboard might be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller than the piece of paper you're drawing from. I'm also changing the angle of a couple of the roads to make them a little bit smaller and make them fit a little bit more. Cool. Now that the cardboard's done, we're going to start painting. We need paint, a paint tray, and a brush. I'm going to start with the blue lake here. Now I'm just going to paint on a layer of blue. You might end up needing more than one layer though, maybe 2 or 3 depending on how thick the paint is. You don't want to be able to see the brown cardboard through the paint. Also think about mixing colors. So you might want to add some green or black to this because water isn't always just pure blue. Add some different colors to it, mix them together, and make different values of blue for the water to make it a little more realistic. Based on my lengthy experiences playing, I know that grass isn't always really smooth or the same length, so I'm adding texture by dabbing the paint on there. It creates a neat grassy texture. I might even add some different values in there to make it a little more realistic. Here I'm outlining some things with a Sharpie just to make the edges a little bit more neat. For really fine details like the lines on the road, I'm actually going to cut super thin strips of yellow paper and glue them on for the traffic lines. I know that I probably wouldn't be able to paint on really neat yellow lines that are really thin, so I'm going to use a glue stick and really thin strips of yellow paper, and we'll end up with a really neat, well done effect. Okay, now we're jumping way ahead to the finished, well, almost finished product. Here I've got a bunch of buildings, things are going pretty well. I'm going to make another building. Here's how we do it. You need cardboard, a ruler, scissors, and a knife. I'm going to mark out how long each side of the building should be. So I'm going to make this 4 inches and draw some lines in there because I'm going to use my knife to cut those lines. Now I need to decide how tall the building should be. So I'm going to make mine 3 inches tall. Draw some lines there and use a scissors to cut out this piece of cardboard. Once you have the cardboard cut out, you're going to use the X-Acto knife. Now you're not going to cut all the way through the cardboard, you're just going to score the surface or cut a little thin slice through one layer of the cardboard. This is going to help it fold to a 90-degree corner like buildings should have. Check this out. Folds nicely to 90 degrees. And for making a perfect square building, it works out nice. Here I'm using liquid glue along one edge, and then I'm going to glue them together. Now at this point, I don't want to sit here and wait, so I'm going to use a rubber band to go around the building to hold it in place while it dries. Now I just need to trace the size for the top of the building, and I'm going to cut that out, glue it on with liquid glue, and I'll be good to go. Okay, here's the top of the building. I'm going to use liquid glue around that top rim, stick it on there, and I think it'll look pretty nice once it's painted. If we go back and look at the other examples, I've added windows just by cutting out little pieces of paper and gluing them on there with a glue stick. This is a cool project. It should be pretty fun. I've made cars and a bunch of stuff that I've glued on. Have fun with it and do a good job. Pay attention to detail and use your imagination. See ya!